Hi, guys, and welcome to the Women's Health Summit, where you are gaining clarity so you can lead with confidence and finally turn that passion into profit. I'm Laura Sherrill, a high-performance women's health coach and the founder of Balance Bombshells, and today I'm here with Samantha, who is a business coach and mentor to female entrepreneurs who are looking to build an engaged community, sell with ease, and use social media to scale their business. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is so fun because I was just telling Sam, I've been following her for a while on Instagram. That's how we met. And I've just been so impressed with how you started your business and how you recognized different scenarios that needed to change and grow with you as you were growing. So the first question I've been loving to ask people is how you got started in your business and why.
Great question. So when I first started my business, I was still teaching full time, and my strength, what my experience was in and what I'd overcome and all of the things that I had solutions for, was around anxiety. So I started my first business as an anxiety coach, and I wrote an anxiety book and I spoke on stages all about anxiety. And the reason I started my business was I have a passion for teaching. I always have, and I loved being a teacher, but I just knew that I was capable of more. I could impact more people needed my answers. That's how I felt. I felt like I had these solutions that had changed my life, and so many other people didn't have that. So I started my first business purely to see, and if I'm honest, it was almost a bit of an experiment. Can I do something apart from teaching? Can I do something different? Is there a world outside of the society's safety blanket? So I worked as an anxiety coach for about 18 months, and it went exceptionally well. So people then started to ask me how I'd built my business completely organically and while working full time. Mm-hmm. So I started to follow the people then and shift my message to focus around creating successful businesses and how to start a business and how to do it organically and how to use social media. So then I built up this pool of knowledge and solutions around how to start and grow a community and a business. So now I do that.
And I love that too, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't always listen. When you're building a business, you have to listen to the audience that is coming to you, because sometimes it can be different. So I love the fact that for 18 months, you're okay, this is a passion, I'm going with it. And I guarantee that you also use that anxiety work in every single client and every single program that you host, because the fear, becoming an entrepreneur,
tough.
It stirs up some stuff. And it is, for me, has been one of the biggest personal development projects. Yeah. I mean, hormones for sure, but owning a business is oh, you have got to be on top of your game. And if you're not, mindset wise, oh, it's tough. So I've just always admired how much you have recognized what people are asking of you. And an entrepreneur mind is there's something here. I can help with that. And then you show up to serve what they're asking for. So I love too that you have built a community organically online, because I think a lot of people ask how to do that, how to find your people. And I think what I've recognized both sides. One is the entrepreneur who's just constantly looking for followers and their numbers to be really high on social media or their email list or whatever, versus I think you and I both know that's not the mindset to take. So do you want to talk a little bit about what it truly means to build a community organically, not necessarily focusing on just getting more followers?
Totally. So this is something I'm super passionate about. And I had a client today, actually. So this is really kind of fresh in my mind. So there's two schools of thought when you start a business. There's the people that think that starting a business now, okay, let's take this back to learning anything. Let's say you want to learn a language. You start off really enthusiastic and you're so passionate and you're this is going to be amazing. And maybe you go to some language classes and you're you buy all the books and you get all the stuff and you're loving it. Then you're maybe 3 weeks in and you realize this is so freaking hard. I don't understand tenses. I don't understand feminine and masculine. I don't understand past and present tenses. I can't do this. And then people give up.
Yeah.
And then you have 10% who think, no, I really am passionate about this and I'm going to keep learning, and they become fluent. Right. This is exactly the same in business. If you start a business because you're really enthusiastic, winning, that's what you need. If you think it's going to be a quick win and you're looking for a quick win, or you're trying to chase money, your business won't last. And I know that sounds really blunt, but it's true. Because if you chase the money, you might get it and it might work really well, and you've created this fluke or this product and it just sells great. But then if you haven't done what needs to be done to build the foundations, you won't have anyone left to buy this thing, and therefore there won't be any more money generated.
Right.
I would say the first thing you need to recognize is your business is the long game. If you want to create a really successful business and you want to be doing this forever, otherwise you're just going to end up having another job. But that job is you having to sit and work 9 to 5 at home rather than have all the benefits of a pension, a holiday pay, sick pay. So you're going to just sacrifice one level of existence to do it on your own with a lot less reward if you're thinking that business is a short-term win. And the second thing is, there's also a group of people that treat their business too much like a hobby. Right. Because they love it, right? So, it's a hobby, and you think, I'll show up whenever I want, but then maybe I won't show up some other time, and then, my dog's unwell, so I'm going to take 2 weeks off, or I want to, I don't know, I've got headaches, so I'm going to take a week off, whatever it might be. There's all sorts of things. And the only reason I'm saying this is I've been there, I've done this, and I know it works. You have to recognize that if you're building a business, you're building a business. You're not just doing this on the side. Right. So if you're focusing on things like numbers or vanity metrics or paying for views or clicks or subscribers and things like that, which of course, as you scale, that's a really good method. But at the beginning, you want to really understand the real nuts and bolts of your people. You want to be able to know everything about them. You want to understand where they live, whether they're married, what their hobbies are, what they enjoy, what they're struggling with, and really be in your business. Right. Because when you are then in a situation to delegate and you're in a situation to scale, you know exactly what that looks like, and you know exactly what it takes. So you know that, for example, if you then hire a VA, you know what you want them to do because you've done it yourself. Right. So I would say, to summarize that question in 2 ways. Number one, your business should be a long-term goal. This should be a vision, something that can change your life, like actually change your life. There is no reason your business can't make you millions or 6 figures or whatever it is for you without you having to work all hours under the sun. You and the long game and the vision of that is just unbelievable. The abundance that you can create, it's just amazing. So the first thing is really start to think and be patient with your business. Be patient with that journey. You don't get a job and become the CEO in 6 months. It's the same thing, allow yourself time, to learn and become educated and get sucked into it, really absorb your people. And the second thing I would say is also, when you don't see results and you're seeing your business as a hobby, if you don't get the followers or you don't get the comments, you have to keep showing up because, for example, Apple have products that don't sell as well as others. Honda have cars that need to get sent back because there's a default, but they keep going anyway. You have to put yourself in a situation where you need to be the reason people come back. And if you're not showing up because they're not showing up, they're definitely still not going to show up.
Right. Yeah, so, it's like it builds on top of each other. But
totally,
you have to drive it, and you have to continue driving it, even when it's hard, even when it feels lonely, even when it's like super uncomfortable.
If it was easy, someone told me this. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Right. If this was easy, everyone would be an entrepreneur, and everyone would be absolutely flying. And the reality is, it's not easy because if it was, everyone would do it. It's the same as being a professional violinist. It's not easy. That's why everyone doesn't do it. Are you going to be the person that does go above and beyond? Are you going to be the person that does decide this is worth it, even though it's hard? Because it's not hard all the time. It gets easier.
Right. So, and I think too, when you love it, like your passion drives you. And like, I am just so grateful that you're here and you're a voice in the business coach market too, because there are a lot of other coaches who are telling people how easy it is, how quick they can get results, how fast they got results. And I'm like, well, okay, wait a second. Like, they'll just be like, yeah, you can get, I remember watching like one business coach and she was like, yeah, you can get 7 figures in 18 months. And here's how I did it. But what she wasn't communicating was the years prior to that 18 months that she was building and growing and testing and pivoting. And I'm like, that's what people need to hear, like the reality of it. I got started in business almost about 4 years ago. And I was the only health coach in this like female, I was like one of the few health coaches in this female entrepreneur program. It was like a group program. Most of them were business coaches. And like, it's just really interesting to see like we're all starting at the same time and who's still working in this space 4 years later.
Yeah.
So when you talk about that 10%, for sure, like most of them fell off. And it was either because like their intentions were wrong because they were just chasing the money and wanting to get there quickly, or they didn't have they weren't like in it to learn and grow from every angle possible. Because like, yeah, I teach health, but I also had to be really strong in online marketing and communication and build like connections. Like it's so many skill sets. So I just love the fact that you're out there talking like the real deal and like, because it's a reality. Because like, what kind of service would we be doing telling women, yeah, tomorrow you can be 6 figures and you're good? Like,
yeah, no, totally. And the other thing that I stand by, and this is even on my Instagram bio, I support women in creating a business that lasts.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. But the second thing is also, you can only give people what you've got. So for example, if I was to say that I'm a 7-figure coach, like I coach people that are making 7 figures, I haven't made £1 million yet, and I work in pounds.
Right.
I haven't done that yet. So I'm not going to have the tools to support people that are making that right now.
Right.
So you have to also make sure that you're serving the people what you already know, like the back of your hands, because that's another thing that you've got to recognize. There's a lot of those messages around, helping you scale to 6 figures or helping you be booked out with clients. But ultimately, you have to do that first. And for me, I believe that, I always come from that place of, I will teach people what I've done. And maybe that's from my teaching background. I wouldn't ask a teenager to do something that I wouldn't do because it's just a level of respect. And I think it wouldn't be fair if I was to say to someone, I can scale your business from 6 to 7 figures when that's not where I'm at. And it's something that I'm driving towards. But I think I want to make sure. So for example, my community have called me Sold Out Sam. And it is very easy for me to sell out. So I give that to my audience. And it doesn't matter if selling out to them is 2 people and they're selling something that's really low end, or it's 20 people, or it's 200.
Right.
You have to make sure that you're giving people you're matching what you can do to what you've done. I think that's another message for me that I think is really important.
Yeah, I agree, because like, even when I was first getting started in like health and wellness, I started talking about hormones, and like, I would not take on women who didn't fit the profile that I knew I could help, because I was like, I'm not that person for you. Like, if it was interesting when I first got started, a lot of women in perimenopause wanted to work with me. And I was like, I'm not well versed in that. Like, like I'm almost 2 decades away from that. So like, sure, I can talk to you about hormones and we can figure it out together, but I don't know if that's something you want to invest in. And like, even just being honest with your people. And I think there's like such a level of respect for like authenticity and just the genuineness. Because like you said, like, you have to be able to be teaching and talking about things that like the back of your hand. And like, if you don't know, you figure it out. Like, you just literally figure it out. And I think even from like the health side, people just think everything's going to be a quick fix. And like in women's health, that's not how our bodies work. So like, anytime we make a change in our food or a fitness, it takes an entire month for our hormones to reset. So we'll see a slight change versus men who their hormones reset at the end of every day. If you do a weight loss challenge with a week with your husband, he's going to see results quicker, because in those 7 days, he went through 7 cycles, where you're like, you only went through a quarter of a cycle. So for women, you'd have to go through 7 months to have the same kind of like results driven impact basically versus a man in a week, which, you know, we're not here to wish away our bodies and compare ourselves to men, but just like the reality of the situation, you can apply that a lot to business and how you're going to grow and scale. You have to have the foundations met and understand. So when you started to pivot, like, was there any challenges that you faced, like as you were going from teaching anxiety to now teaching business?
So this is something that people ask me quite a lot, but I did what I call a soft transition. So I still spoke about mindset, and I would just start to talk more about business and give more tips. And there was a time where I was still offering anxiety coaching and business coaching, but of course I was attracting different people for each, until I then just gradually stopped talking about anxiety and, you know, mental health. And therefore, but the people that were following me for that still got the mindset support from everything I did in mindset, but it was just now linked to business. So I didn't find it too much of a challenge, purely because it was what I was doing in my life. So I tried to just follow the experience I was having. So people were then following on with my journey. And because I did do it, you know, for example, I've had one client and they've gone from, for example, like abusive relationships into self-worth. You need to have a hard transition for that, of course, because it's completely different. And the message will be different. But for me, because the mindset element and the topics and the fact I had built a business and I'd done it all, you know, I'd left teaching and everyone was like, wow, you finally left teaching. I was able to create that easy transition. So yeah, no, so I don't think I did. I don't think I had. Like, I remember when I first started, I was head of sixth form and we had sixth form prom. And I was sat in the car park and my first website had just launched. And I remember crying in the car park, like, oh my gosh, I've just got my first website. And I remember a year later, I had sixth form prom again, obviously, because teaching, it just goes around in cycles. And I said, I'm going part-time, you know, I can't believe it. And then I went back to prom last year and I'd already left, but my year group were just about to finish. And I went and I sat in the car park and I said, wow, like 3 years ago, I was teaching full time and I just had a website. Well, 3 school years, 2 like business years. And I just had a website. And then now I'm coming here basically as a guest. I'm not teaching. I don't work at the school anymore and I'm going it alone. And even that, people that were following from the anxiety side of things, they were loving it. You know, they were just, I can't believe you've done this. This is amazing. So I think just keeping it very real to where I was at allowed it to be a really easy switch.
Right. Yeah. Cause I'm always so impressed on how open you are and how much you show up for your community too, because you and I didn't know each other. I think we first connected like almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, it can be weird when you're like meeting people offline, but it's like, no, I feel like I know you from like, you know, listening to you on Instagram and like your videos and stuff. And I think we were first connecting when you were first launching your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Which is obviously like growing from there. So it's just, I mean, from my end, like, I just love being able to watch women like grow and, you know, what are they doing? What kind of challenges are they coming up against? How are they pivoting? And it's just such a nice journey to be a part of, especially for the women who are watching, where you're like, you know, we have to find that community, especially as like entrepreneurs, and like having people in your back corner, whether it's a coach, whether it's just other fellow entrepreneurs that you can talk to, because like during that transition from you going from like teaching full time to being a full-time entrepreneur, like it's not easy, you know, and then
Hi.
I don't know. So I know like you were having the support, but did you find that it was sometimes hard to have the conversations with your like everyday people about like your new business?
Yeah. I mean, at the beginning, it was, people just didn't get what I was doing, to be honest. And I think teaching, and I know it's the same in every country, but it's really highly valued, you know, and it's a vocation, it's not an occupation, and that's what we go into it for, you know, it's a calling. So I think people found that unusual, you know, you're doing something great for the younger generation. I also got a good salary because I was, you know, in leadership at school, great status. I worked in one of the best schools in the country, a great pension. Obviously all my holidays were paid, so I got like 14 weeks holiday a year paid. So people were like, I don't know why you would leave all of that. You know, now I don't have, and the pension in the UK for teachers, especially I was in a state school, not private, is amazing. So I've got a really good pension for the 10 years I was teaching. I will never be able to match that. No way, because a private pension just isn't the same. The government don't support you in the same way. So
Right.
people did find that weird, you know, you're leaving all of this. And we've got a nice big house. We travel. Pre-business, we would travel 8 times a year. So we've always been very good with money and traveling and, you know, having the lifestyle that we want. But of course, then when I first went into this, my business wasn't where it is now. So there was a big risk of, am I even going to make what I made monthly as a teacher, let alone more? And how will I do that? So yeah, I did have, and obviously then I had to make a lot of sacrifices. I couldn't go out all the time. I had to work evenings. I had to, you know, work at the weekends with my calls because I was in teaching. So I did have a few friendships that dropped off and said, you know, you're not the same person you were. I had a few conversations with family members that, you know, you don't make as much time for us. You're always online, but you can't ring me. So I did have some of that, you know, misunderstanding and pressure and judgment. But I think now, where people see where I'm at, it was all worth it, because they've all come around and they're all like, do you know what, Sam? Fair play, like fair play. I would never be able to do that. And now I am more present and I can speak to my friends and I can go out and I can have days off and I can be the person that I was. But there always has to be an element of discomfort to come out the other side. So yeah, in full transparency, it was hard. And there were times that I thought, stick to teaching, Sam. It's safe. It's easy. I'll always have a job. And I worked, like I said, in a very prestigious school, and I was a very prestigious leader there. So I had a great setup. So it was hard. It definitely was hard having to leave that security. And it wasn't even basic security. I was thriving in teaching. So yeah, and it was very hard to educate the people that I love on why I was doing it, because, you know, obviously they then, is it greed? You know, why can't you be happy with what you've got? Why do you need to always want more? You know, you need to slow down, you'll burn out, it's not good for you, balance, all of those things. But
but when you tune into your heart, like, how did you feel in your heart?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You just have to have this inner knowing, you know, like you have to just, all I wanted to do was try. All I wanted to do was give it a go. And I thought, if, you know, I could go back to teaching tomorrow, you know, it's not going anywhere. I've got, you know, that's what I used to say to people. I just want to give this a chance. I want to see what I can do. I just feel like I'm capable. So I think if you've got this inner calling inside of yourself where you just feel like you can desire to try and be better than where you are right now, this idea of growth and energy and almost expansion, you just want to see what's on the other side of your current life, you have to push through that. That would be my advice, because you will, if you don't do it now, you might never do it, because
and you'll regret it.
Oh, totally. And I, you know, for example, we were talking about, you know, before we came to this podcast this interview, before I flew to LA in the middle of a situation which was really uncertain, and I had to fly home after 24 hours. And I don't regret that. I would rather have gone and have to come home than not go and not know what could have happened.
Right.
Always give yourself the chance to learn from something than never know what was on the other side. I think that is so important. Just give yourself a chance. Like, if you believe in yourself, that ultimately is all that really matters. Other people will then either follow you, believe in you, and back you, or they will take a step back. And if they take a step back, and as hard as it is, and I'm not saying it's easy to do, that's their life and their choice. And you can't be controlled by that. So that wasn't really a short answer, but yeah, it was hard. It was hard for sure.
Yeah. But I think like every entrepreneur goes through that, because like I didn't tell people for like a full year that I was going to be teaching women's health until I was like nearing the time when I was going to be leaving work. Because like people just associate you in one box and you know that you're going to be rocking the boat. It can be very different. For you, it was a natural progression because you're like, well, I'm a teacher. I'm just going to be teaching something different in a different way. Where for me, I always knew, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur at 7 years old. Like I just knew. So I like went to business school, and I, for 8 years post college, was trying to figure out what kind of business I was going to start. And like, it was just always in my mind. So I was in fundraising, and I excelled really well in fundraising. I did a lot of like brand partnerships and did high level marketing from like individuals or corporations. So I remember, when I went in to give my notice at work, I hadn't told anybody what I was doing. So then I go in and give my notice, and my boss was like, I mean, just beside herself, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you throwing your life away? Like, apparently I was her succession plan for when she wanted to retire in 5 years. So she was like, well, don't you want to be like the head of a foundation in by 35? And I was like, considering I became a CEO for myself at 29, I think I'm okay. I didn't say that to her because, you know, like you don't want to have that conversation. But in my mind, I was like, well, I already started it like 6 years before what you're planning. So, okay, I'm sorry that I'm not fitting into the box that you created for me.
Yeah.
You know, and like, who am I to be open and talking about my dreams and passions that I don't know if they're going to work out yet. And then you're going to feel threatened by me doing something on the side of my full-time job. Like, you just don't have those conversations until you're ready. So even the friend thing too, I had a girlfriend who basically stopped being my friend and didn't even tell me for like a year and a half that an Instagram post had bothered her from me sharing another woman's story. And I was just like, oh my, like you're telling me a year and a half later and you're saying it doesn't bother you, but now we don't talk to each other. So clearly it did bother you, and you couldn't be like open to like talk about it. And so it's fascinating, just like the changes that can happen. But, you know, sometimes people are meant to come into your life for a very specific time, and like, that's okay, and honor that time period. And then you kind of like your business, you pivoted and shifted, and you showed up to serve the people who are asking things of you and from you. So yeah, it's just, I don't know if many entrepreneurs talk about the hardships that can come from relationships. But on the other side of that was, think of you personally. Like, I was dying inside, not talking about women's health every day, not helping women understand their bodies in the same way that I had transformed my life. And I just remember thinking, I'm doing such a disservice if I don't do something with this. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I have to at least try. And like, that inner part of you, it was almost like screaming at me and like making me very unhappy in my life because I wasn't saying yes to what I truly wanted to do. Yeah. Almost a form of people pleasing of those around you, of what they expect from you, because you're scared of rocking the boat. Did you feel like, I know you just kind of mentioned like internally, like you were just feeling stuck?
Yeah, I think I mean, to be honest with you, I just thought, I don't know if I want to be a teacher forever. So I didn't necessarily know where my business would go, but I just thought, I don't know if I can spend another 30 years and then just retire. I mean, you know, I can only wee at certain times. I can only eat at certain times. I have to get up every day at the same time. I have to teach certain stuff. You know, it was so scheduled, so routined. And I just thought, I don't know if I want to do this all the time. And ultimately I thought, you know, my friends and my family, they don't live with me. They don't pay my bills. They don't travel. They don't pay for my holidays. So if I want to choose to create this with my husband, who's supportive and believes in me and knows I'm capable, if I become a multi-millionaire, which will happen, why would I not start at the beginning? Because there's no way I'm going to do that if I don't start. So I kind of was like, and Luke was like, Sam, listen, like, you are like an exceptional human being. Like, you will give everything 100%. If you want to go for it, go for it. Like, we'll make it work. Obviously, I'm very good with money. I always have been. You know, we saved, we own our house. So, you know, we did, you know, all of that. And he was like, we've got this covered. He's got a great job which he loves. We'll make it work. Like, do not stop yourself from creating something, because in 10 years time, where will we be? And
exactly.
Yeah, and I just thought that's where I have to be responsible, of course. And I'd say this to anyone, you know, if you do live with someone and you've got joint responsibility, you know, you want to include them in that and make sure that it is something that you can have their support on as much as possible, because you're creating this energy that you then live in, and you want to be surrounded by as much fulfillment as possible. So I just thought, ultimately it's down to us. Like, if we can pay for our bills and pay to live in society and sustain our life, I want to give this a go. And honestly, now people look at me constantly and say, I don't know how you've done that. And I just think,
you listen to yourself. Yeah. Like that's, yeah. And I love that too, of like having a partner who's supportive, because Tyler and I were not married yet when I left my job. Like, we were living together, but keeping in mind, like, we were moving in that direction, welcoming him in on the conversation. How are you feeling about this? Because I know this isn't just going to be impacting me. This is ultimately what's going to be our life. Are you on board with what this truly means and what it truly looks like? And we had to have numerous conversations, but he was so supportive, and he was just so much of, I just want you to be happy and we will figure everything else out, which kind of like affirms you're with the right person. You have to be with someone who's going to support your dreams. And it's just, without that support, I mean, if your husband wasn't as supportive as he was, do you think that you would have like given your all, or do you think you would have like faltered along the way a little bit more?
I think, yeah, good question. I think, no, I wouldn't have. I think, you know, based on my like upbringing and, you know, my life and stuff like that, I've been through so much more than a partner not, you know, believing in me, for example. Right. So I would have said to him, listen, we pay everything 50-50. We always have. If it really got to it, I would have said, fine, I'll pay my way as always, and I'm going to do it how I want. That's it. No, right. I don't know what you expect from this situation. And of course, at the beginning, he was like, what is an online business? Like, right. What is that?
Tyler doesn't have Instagram, so sometimes I'll like post stuff just for embarrassment of him and tell him about it later, because it's like, you can't do anything.
At the beginning, he was like, Sam, why am I taking all these pictures of you? What are we doing?
Right, Instagram husband.
Yeah.
Like, just go with it.
Yeah, I just think, to be honest with you, yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of people and so many women that won't necessarily be in this situation and that level of support. But what I would say to you is there's always options. Yes. Always options. So I would say to Luke, if I need to, I'll get a part-time job. If I need to, I'll go back to teaching. Yep. Give yourself deadlines. You know, if it's not going to, and that's the reason I didn't leave my job straight away. I was like, okay, well, we'll give it a year. If I can make X amount, I'll go part-time. If on the extra days off, I make X amount, I'll leave. So it was a strategic decision. So you've always got options. If you need to work in a coffee shop, you can do that. If you need to work in a grocery shop, you can do that. Like, there's no way you will not be able to support your life. But if you need to get out of your really heavy, committed, high-level job and give yourself the chance to have a headspace and more energy and just less shifts, but you can still cover yourself, you've always got choices. You're not a failure if you work and build your business.
Correct.
And you're not a failure if you have a part-time job and build your business. You're not a failure if your partner needs to support you while you build your business. None of that is failing. Right. The only failure is if you don't create solutions to support the dreams that you have. Right. And there's always solutions, always.
Right. And I love that you said that too, because like it took me a year before I left my job. Same thing. Like I set the intention, like, you're going to know when it's time, like financially and emotionally. And so it was like almost coming up to that year point where like financially it was at the point where I knew it could be better if I had more time to focus on it. So there was that shift. And then mentally I was becoming more blunt at work. And I was like, my inner subconscious is coming out that I truly don't want to be here anymore. And I just remember thinking, like, emotionally, I'm kind of being tied between two worlds right now. And it became too stressful that it was very much like, this is my opportunity now to choose. Am I going to continue doing both and feeling burnt out and feeling exhausted? Or do I recognize that my full-time job is 95% causing that, and it's because my heart just really wants to be over here? Because I think we can even use our emotions to help guide us, you know, especially now that I teach women's health. It's like, how much fluidity are we feeling within our bodies? Like, what kind of resistance are we showing up in our life? Like, really honoring and using that to our advantage, which I think has strengthened women in general as entrepreneurs. Like, women have that deep intuition. Like, if we listen to that, oh my gosh, like, you know, it guides you to where you are now. I do want to bring up one thing that I've noticed that has not changed in your business. And I love this because I think it's so effectively branded, is the color yellow in everything that you do. Do you want to bring up yellow?
Yeah, so our wedding was yellow themed, our kitchen's yellow. Like, I'm obsessed with yellow. I always have been. I think I've always been addicted to the sunshine. Like, that's not even, I have always been addicted to the sunshine. When we would go on girls holidays, I wouldn't want to go out drinking and partying. I would want to be by the pool sunbathing. I love the energy of the sunshine. I love the energy it gives me. I love the warmth on my skin. I love taking baths. I've always loved baths. I love the warmth. I love feeling warm, and I just love it. And it's very me, like my personality. I've always been just yellow. That's, you know, I used to be called Little Miss Sunshine. I just love it. And I think the one thing that will never change is, because, you know, I will do lives and coaching calls if my hair's scraped back greasy, no makeup, you know, I've got no qualms about all of that stuff, you know, gym gear, sweaty, whatever it is. And I've always stood by that. I just want to be myself and share what I love. And I love yellow. Like, my wedding, way before the business, was yellow themed. I had yellow bridesmaid dresses, yellow flowers, yellow. I freaking love it. Our kitchen's yellow. I want a yellow front door. Yeah. So
if no one's been to Sam's Instagram, I'm going to be sharing it, because like your feed is just, I mean, I love it. I was attracted to it because I love the sun too, but I just think that it's like a perfect representation of a female entrepreneur staying true to herself, because there's a lot of coaches out there that are doing like the pink theme.
Totally. Pink, almost like monochrome, gold. Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah. So mine's like seafoam, because I'm obsessed with seafoam. Like, just my senior prom dress was seafoam. I have so many accents in my home that's seafoam. It reminds me of the ocean. It's very calming.
Oh, yeah.
When I got married last year, before I found a dress, I found seafoam heels and like found the dress around those shoes so they could be shown. So like there's a slit up the front that the tailor helped open, so it'd be like more open so you could actually see the shoes. And I'm like, so I totally understand the obsession of like a specific color that just makes you feel so good, but then you use that in your marketing and your branding, which then ties people to you. So whenever I see something branded of yellow, I'm immediately going to think of you, which like, so yeah, I'm obsessed with branding. So
yeah, I get that all the time. I think, yeah, my advice on that would be, even if it's not a color, but it's a style, or it's a word or something, you have to bring that into your business. Because if we go back to the very start, your business is for the long game. And if you don't love it, and like even now, like I freaking love yellow.
I know. I just, even your energy. Yeah. Talking about it.
Love it. So if you don't have that about your own, you know, brand or your own message, it's going to be really hard for you to stay in love with it. So it's okay if that changes, but make sure from the beginning that you don't feel like you have to merge to fit into something, because ultimately your personality will shine so much brighter when you do bring something that you love. So if you have funky shoes, don't hide that and think, oh, people think it's professional or whatever. The right people will love what you love, and that's what it's about, for sure. So I think that's so important you said that, because, and if you love pink, great. If you love monochrome, it's not, there's nothing against that, but you just don't feel like you have to suit a certain style in order to be successful. You don't. I know someone who wears a baseball cap all the time, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, sometimes it's not even sunny, but he just freaking loves baseball caps. And he's like, even if he speaks on stage, he will wear a baseball cap.
Yeah. It's like the little quirks that like make you, but then also being okay of expressing that, which I think like goes into how you're able to sell effectively, how you're able to build community, because you're showing the real authentic you. And I just love that that was one of the pieces that very much has been carried with you. Even knowing that you're now teaching entrepreneurs, but like you're always going to have to talk to them about their mindset and the anxiety of breaking out on your own, of being more visible online. Like none of this stuff is easy. Like I find myself still faltering sometimes. It usually goes along with my cycle. So usually I can pinpoint exactly when it's going to happen, which for me is helpful. So then I can like overload maybe more like communicative tasks to when I know I'm going to want to be more outgoing, and then like repurpose them later in the month when I know, because I'm very introverted, I need that space away. But then you have that content already done. So like just knowing yourself too, and how you're going to be able to operate the most effectively. But I just have loved this conversation. I know you've got a freebie for us. I don't know if you want to talk about that. It's your weekly roundup.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this, and that, to be honest with you, the best thing that's going to support you, I have a weekly roundup which gives you all of my free content in one place. So any YouTube videos, any Facebook free trainings, any resources I've created, my podcast, all of it. So rather than you feeling like you have to kind of go everywhere, just go there, because every Saturday, for me, morning, in the US, it would be your Friday evening, you just get everything's in one place. So that would be my freebie, because I deliver so much free support all the time. It would be really hard for me to give you just one thing. So I would, definitely go to the weekly roundup.
So not only is that like one opt-in, but then it's like weekly and ongoing support from Sam, which is so beautiful. So, I mean, I'm on your email list, so I get it. I'm like, yeah, here's the weekly roundup. Yeah, I've been on your email list for a while. So it's just so fun to be able to like, you know, check in, watch your videos, make it feel like we're hanging out. But I will keep that link in the show notes for the women who want to sign up for that. But thank you so much for joining us today. It's been so fun diving into your business, how you've shifted and grown, and just listen to what your audience wanted from you.
Thank you so much for having me.